Welcome to Spotlight, where each week a guest takes center stage for an intuitive tarot reading. You'll get a front row seat to a real recorded session as we explore the magic of tarot together. My goal is to create a space where we navigate challenges, uncover fresh perspectives, and reconnect with inner wisdom, giving you a glimpse into what it's like to receive a reading with me. Interested in being a Spotlight guest? Just fill out the application below and I'll be in touch about getting you on. Now, without further ado, let's meet this week's guest. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Spotlight. I have a really special guest today. Her name is Lyn Peters, and she's here for actually one of her first tarot readings, and I'm really excited to have her. Thank you for being here today, Lyn.
Well, thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. So I know we talked about how you didn't have a specific question in mind. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just pull cards from your higher self. So while I shuffle around that, why don't you just share a little bit about you and then any experience you've had around either tarot or psychic readings or anything like that?
I briefly remember one tarot reading that I had, but I was like a teenager and it was at a psychic fair. And I remember asking her if the guy I was seeing was going to be is the one. And of course, it's not going to be the one. So she told me it wasn't going to be, and she was right. But so I don't know how legit it was, and actually, I don't remember anything else. So um, I feel like this is my first tarot reading. I've seen a lady by the name of Melissa White, and she is a medium, and she's done some readings for me where my dad has come through, which was very powerful for me. Like, I really believe in this kind of stuff. So it was just an amazing experience. And then, of course, with Jason meeting you, my husband meeting you, I've heard nothing but good things. So I wanted to try give this a try and see where this goes. And my higher self has to say.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I love mediums. It's definitely mediumship is different from tarot, but being able to connect with the other side. And I also work with mediums, and it's amazing what you can learn
Mhm.
from, someone who shouldn't know anything about the person you've lost. And it's just really beautiful
It's
and
a shock to
confirming.
the system. When she starts mentioning things that my dad used to say or something, and it's just like, how do you know this? Right. And then it just, I don't know, the feeling that comes over you is like, wow, like he's actually here right now. It's so nice, right?
Yeah, I had that same because for me, my first couple experiences with a medium it wasn't even like I was going to a paid medium. I just happened to connect with someone who did something else, but then also happened to have mediumship. So it just kind of
Oh, wow.
this person just entered the chat, and it was funny because I was still really skeptical, like like
Yeah.
I don't know. But then they'd say things that I was like, oh no, that sounds like the person, or they would know things that they shouldn't have known, and so it was in the end it was really confirmational and so yeah, that's beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and do what I call my higher self spread. I'm going to go over a theme, past, present, future energies, and then higher self messages as a whole.
Okay.
So don't be afraid to interrupt me at all. Like if you want to comment on something or question about something, once I start talking, start going, and it's just part of the channeling. But you won't mess me up if you say anything or interrupt me. So don't be afraid to ask if I don't stop to like check in.
Okay.
So the very first card is your theme, and it's the Three of Pentacles. And so this one is really cool because it's inviting you, and I feel like this is kind of this like a season that you're in right now, where you're learning to see the gifts that you bring to the table. You're learning to see like how you show up in a way that's unique to you, and you can only do it in the way that you do it. And you're actually able to start seeing that. So a lot of what comes with this card initially is kind of comparison. It feels like, well, everyone else brings this and I only bring this, like that kind of mentality.
Mhm.
But I feel like you're in the space where you're starting to see, well, hold on. I've been told and I've gotten confirmation and I've got validation that actually I bring something really unique that's really special that people appreciate. And so instead of comparing it, you're starting to actually like own it. And that's exactly what a big part of this card is being able to say, okay, so this is what I'm really good at. And instead of focusing on the things I'm not so good at, I'm going to just focus better on what I am good at and hone it. And then what happens is the things that you're not so good at, that's where you can collaborate and lean on other people who are better at that than you are. And then what what you're good at is likely what they're not so good at. So then they lean on you. And I love this picture because it really demonstrates that the braid, right? When you're able
Yeah.
to not be worried about competition or comparison, right? You're able to just be in your gifts and then you're able to hold space for other people's gifts. And then it's just easier to come together and work together. And so I feel like you're in the space where you have I don't know if you've necessarily like welcomed in the collaboration part, but you're definitely starting to see what you bring to the table. And that's helping you start to realize, oh, okay, so now since I can see I can help others, now it's easier for me to lean on that. And then eventually I feel like it's going to lean more into the collaborating and working together. So that's the first thing.
Awesome. Well, yeah, that definitely hits a chord. So awesome.
So looking at your recent past, which I love this, and I feel like this probably has a lot to do with you realizing, like I said, starting to hone in on your gifts. So we have the King of Swords. So before I talk about the King of Swords, I always like to talk about the Queen of Swords because typically the Queen of Swords was the season before the King of Swords. So the Queen of Swords is all about boundaries and learning how to set them, learning what you will and won't accept, learning where to draw the line in the sand, how to draw the line in the sand. And it's usually like an ex people pleaser energy, right? Where it's like you have to learn how to say no. And a lot of times the Queen of Swords gets a bad rep because she can come off kind of cold and
Mhm.
rigid. It's because she has to be, because she's letting people know I mean business when maybe in the past they just walked over her boundaries. So that was likely a season you went through like farther in the past, but more in the recent past, you've come to this place where you're not so rigid. You're firm, but you don't need to be rigid. So when someone says, "Hey, I want you to contort yourself into this box over here," you're now you're looking at the box and saying, "No, thank you. I don't want to do that. That doesn't feel like me. That doesn't feel like something that I need to do right now." And there's no consequence for saying no because if they get upset or whatever, you understand that that's their problem and you're
Mhm.
able to stand in your power. And I feel like coming to that place in the more recent past is what helped you start to look more at yourself and say, well, okay, so now that I'm trusting myself and I have boundaries, what is it that I do bring to the table? And it kind of brought you into the space where you were starting to explore and see your gifts and see like what I like to call your superpowers. And so I feel like it was a process. You had to first choose you. And then that space, you're like, okay, what? Well, now that I'm choosing me, what all is there to learn? So I'm feeling like that's the space that you're coming from. And then moving into the present, we have the Five of Wands reversed. And I love this so much because the Five of Wands reverse is all about harmony and like very little conflict. So you for yourself, you feel like in a lot of ways you're on the same page with yourself. So there's not a ton of inner conflict in your life right now. Externally, there's not a lot of outward conflict. Like you just feel like things are very peaceful. And I feel like again, after the season of the Queen of Swords, you're now in this season where you're anyone that's stealing your peace isn't here anymore. They're not allowed to be here. So you're choosing your peace now, and that's like the space that you're in. So moving into the near future, it's kind of interesting because I do feel like there's some kind of a idea or endeavor or project or something you want to do. So the near future card is the Eight of Swords reversed. And then the higher self message to it is the Knight of Swords. So I'm going to talk more about the Knight of Swords first. This one talks about basically having some kind of an idea or a project or a pursuit that you want to go after that, and it's likely like it feels like a pull, like you just feel drawn or magnetic in that direction. And the biggest thing is it's a very quick moving pull. So it's like you kind of have to just say yes. And when the Knight of Swords comes up, either you're all in or you're going to dig your heels in and say, I don't know.
Mhm.
And so it's more so with the Eight of Swords here, that's telling me that you're on the fence. So the Eight of Swords upright speaks to feeling like your hands are tied and you're trapped. So like you want to do it, but you feel like there's no means, or you're like bound. Like I want to do it, but I only have one way, and that way's blocked. So I don't know if I can. But with the swords, Eight of Swords being reversed, that does speak to some kind of a awareness around knowing better. So it's like the part of you that feels trapped feels real, but there's another part of you that is pushing back, going, "No, there's got to be another way. There's got to if I change my perspective, there's got to be another way." And so that's why I'm saying like on the fence. So I feel like you're being drawn and pulled towards something. And the thing about the Nine of Swords, it's the fastest moving nine in the deck for a reason. Like it's full charge action. And then the invitation is if you put your all into it and you put your, I mean, it's not the same thing as a work of faith because you have to do the work. But if you do the work, you're going to be really happy with the outcome because it's like you put your all into it.
Right.
So what I'm seeing from this is you're either you have something in mind or there's something that's going to come up in the very near future that's going to invite you in that direction. And you're being invited to sit with it because while you I feel like your natural instinct is going to dig your heels in and say, I don't know, I'm afraid of failure. I'm afraid if I go for this, it's not going to work. Or if I try, it's going to be roadblocked. So why bother? Kind of a thing with a little bit of your own pushback, knowing, like telling yourself, oh, I don't know, maybe I can do it, maybe that's just my belief and not really the truth. And so there's a lot of yes energy in this. And the biggest invitation is to look at the narrative and the story you're telling yourself around it. Because the Eight of Swords, you're not actually trapped, it's up here. It's the perspective and the story that you're spinning around it. I like to use the analogy of if imagine you're in a locked room and you're trying to break down this door and you're throwing everything, like you're throwing furniture at this door, you're throwing yourself into this door, it's not budging, but you're so focused on only going through the door, you don't see the open window that's right next to it.
Mm.
So the idea is that like broaden your horizon to more of the bird's eye view because there are several ways forward. It's not just the one way that your mind is trying to pigeonhole your way into. There's several. So you're not actually trapped or bound. It's all up here. So I feel like this is just like an invitation for yourself is if you feel drawn to go after something, it is possible and it can be yours. How can you shift your perspective to honor that?
Not everyone wants to talk about their situation or life questions out loud, and that's okay. That's why my email tarot readings are a perfect fit for the inward seekers, the ones who feel deeply, process everything, and don't always have the words or the energy for a live session. Here's how it works. You send your question, I tune in, pull cards, and record a 17 to 25-minute voice message, channeling what comes through around your question and situation. You'll also receive a photo of the cards pulled, all delivered to your inbox within 24 hours. My intention is always to honor your journey with sincerity and heart-aligned guidance. If this feels like the kind of support you've been craving, let's connect. You can find me at the link below or at www.spiritjourneycollective.com.
And then the higher self message in the middle. So this is an interesting thing to me, especially because I'm seeing like the season of peace, but it does also make sense too. So I have the two of cups reversed and the Knight of Cups reversed. So I think what happens a lot of times when we finally do have peace, when we finally are kind of not in a space where we're in fight or flight, which a lot of times happens like in the people pleaser energy before boundaries. What happens a lot of the times is we're finally at peace enough to start doing some healing. And so the two of cups reversed, I like to call this my shadow card. And are you familiar with the term shadow work at all?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So essentially shadow work is a form of healing, but like going back to childhood, going back to like the parts of you that you abandoned to, that was more of like a kind of like a self-defense thing. And so it's letting you know that you have some healing from your past, likely going back to childhood, and likely even though you're in a state of peace in your life, there's probably still things happening that are showing up as mirrors for you and triggering you.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the two of cups here reverse, it's saying that you are being triggered and you're kind of sweeping it under the rug. You're experiencing the triggers, the mirrors, and it's a lot, and it is because shadow work, healing, it's a lot. It's kind of like I'll deal with that later. And this is just letting you know, like these mirrors are gonna keep coming because they're here to show you what needs to heal. So if one event stops coming, okay, great. It's gonna be another event that's gonna show you very similarly what you already like very similar to what the other thing showed you, even if it's a different person event, thing, it's environment, it's going to be repeating until you look at it. And the card next to it is the Knight of Cups reversed. And I feel like the biggest resistance around the shadow work is more around you're afraid of your own like emotional imbalance. You're afraid of kind of going on the roller coaster. And so it's like, I don't want to go there because I know that when I do this, it's going to be a lot for me. And I'm probably going to project and slosh all over the place and everyone else while I'm trying to also find my footing. So the thing about the Knight of Cups reversed, or just in general, it's the invitation is finding your own inner balance. So I like to compare it like, let's say your emotions were a cup of water. You need to find a way to hold that, like walk with that cup of water without it, sloshing. Another analogy I like to use for this card is it's a lot like when it's tumultuous or when it's in like the lows or the highs. When it's in the lows, it's kind of like you're out of control on like rapids. And then when things are good, you get to kind of be at the serene lake. But it's a back and forth, like a toggle back and forth. And the biggest invitation is, so yes, it's going to be a lot. Yes, likely you'll have a lot of those big feelings come up and some of that will be there. But if you're present with it and you're able to be aware with it, even when you're feeling yourself on the rapids, how can you find space, even in the rapids, for yourself to go back into that inner peace? Even when it feels like you're out of control on the raft, you have the ability to step away if you have to, whatever it's environment, or just go sit with yourself for 10 minutes and just imagine yourself in that like peaceful lake where you're not, does that make sense? Like in the rapids, finding a way to find that inner peace instead, and choosing that instead of waiting for you to get there.
Yes, like to switch the emotions that you're feeling, like
Mm-hmm.
validate them and to know that you're feeling them and it's okay to feel them, but being able to make it so it doesn't last like all day or all week or whatever it is, and bring yourself back to the serene lake.
Right.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, it's basically reminding you that you have a choice, even in the midst of the chaos, to come back to your own balance and your own peace. And so, what I feel like that's saying, especially sitting right next to the Two of Cups, is it's letting you know that you are ready to deal with these triggers and these traumas and healing. And there are coping mechanisms and tools to help you find your balance, even when some of the healing might get a little rough or a little bit heavy.
Yeah, that's the trick though, right? Is remembering that in the moment and
Yeah.
knowing that you do have the capabilities and the power to do that. Something that I struggle with sometimes. But no, that's yeah, bang on, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, as a whole, I feel like you've been in this season of finding your truth, your power, your peace, and your superpowers. Like that's been really a big part of like your season. And now that things are peaceful, higher self is letting you know, like, okay, now it's time to start kind of undigging some of the things that you've buried. So that way you can start, because now it's like you have the space and the safety to be able to let it in. Whereas before there was too much going on to be able to do it.
Right. Okay. And when you're talking about my season, is that just like where I'm at in my life? Like,
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of where you now, and like probably like recent past up till now. So when I say season, I mean like the time, like a phase, or the time frame.
Right. Okay. Just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify. Yeah, that's actually really validating. And I want to thank you very much because I was thinking about like basically all of that stuff, but also second guessing myself. It's just really validating to know that what I'm feeling is a thing, right? Like it's
Mhm.
something that other people have gone through, that it's, yeah, I'm not going crazy basically. And I'm not making things up. It's like, yeah, this is a part of your life journey, and these things you go through, and you can make it out on the other side, and you have the tools to do it. So you have no idea about the weight that I just feel lifted off my shoulders, to tell you the truth. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable to share that. And that's that's one of the reasons I love offering tarot, especially for those who've never experienced it before, because that's what this is for. It's so much of tarot is validation and confirmation. People think it's like, oh, you're gonna tell me something mysterious, but no, it's actually just letting you know likely what you've already been battling, and then bringing it to light, and then letting you know that you know more than you think you do. That's so much of what tarot is. And so I thank you so much for sharing that and demonstrating that with your words.
No, it's just like all the things that you've talked about, you were able to actually put words to it, and it's exactly how I was feeling and what I was thinking. But I like a lot of times I'd be trying to talk to Jason and I have no idea how to explain it to him, or yeah, to explain to him how I'm feeling or how I'm thinking it. And I get really frustrated about that. And then but you just did everything for me and I really thank you. Yeah, now I get to, I can think about the things that are possibly coming up in the future and what is going to be drawing me to that, and know that if it's something that I do want to pursue, like it is actually possible, like it's not, I don't have to dig my heels in. I don't have to be afraid. Like, yeah, the fear of failure, that's a big thing for me, which I've just come to learn about myself actually, which I know sounds weird, but it's yeah, I never thought I was a perfectionist or anything like that. Like, um, I was able to tell other people, like, you're doing great. Like, no, it's not perfect, but that's okay. This is perfect the way it is, right? And
Mhm.
but then I never realized about myself, like, no, it has to be perfect when I do it because, other people are depending on me, or I don't know. I don't feel right if it's not perfect or whatever, but I don't know. It sounds weird. It's like people are like, "How do you not realize you're a perfectionist?" And I'm like, "I didn't."
I can actually relate. My therapist a few years ago said, "You know, you're a perfectionist, right?" And I always assumed perfectionist was like someone who's like OCD.
Hmm.
And I was like, I am not a perfectionist. And he's like, no, and so it was very similar. It was like a people pleaser thing. Like when I'm around, I have to be like meet a certain criteria in my mind. And so, and so it's a little different. It's not necessarily how I show up to be perfect for everyone else. It's more like perfect in like the space with them where I'm like, oh, I have to be a certain way in order to be
Yes.
accepted and loved. And, and
Yes.
so there's different ways of being a perfectionism. And it makes perfect sense that you wouldn't know it. I didn't know it either, until it's brought into a certain way where you're like, oh my God, I totally do that.
Well,
Yeah.
and then I was able to start like realizing like those expectations that I put on myself are not realistic, right? And it's just like I'm surprised it lasted as long as I did before everything just went to heck, like, and now I know why everything went to heck. Like it was not realistic what I was putting on myself.
Yeah.
Live and learn, I guess. But yeah, no, it's just, oh my gosh, it's just so interesting to see how everything just meshes together now. It's just big light bulb going off. It's amazing.
Well, thank you for joining me today and being a guest and being open to, you know, I know you kind of had a reading when you were really young, so like coming back into it and being open to trying it again. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Oh, well, this is definitely a better experience than the first one, that's for sure.
Thank you for joining me on another inspiring episode. Remember, your purpose is a unique and unfolding path. I hope these conversations have ignited a spark within you. Until next time, keep exploring, growing, and embracing the beautiful adventure of connecting with your purpose. Stay tuned for more meaningful conversations. If you enjoyed the episode today, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for joining me on this journey.